Hey Ash, how are you? Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
Yeah, you fresh out of Rome Fruita, right, in
Oh my gosh,
Colorado?
like a little too fresh, and we're 2 weeks out from Rome Fest Sedona, and so it's like, we always have the debate of like, do you cram things together or do
Mm,
you like separate them? Of course, there's like
yeah.
a friend's dog is in the house, so if you hear a little
Oh,
barking,
that's okay. No worries.
that's
No
Dolly
worries.
Parton, not
Dolly
the Dolly
Parton
Parton,
is
but
her
you
name.
know.
That's awesome. My dog's name is Indiana. It's very
There you
like
go. I think those would go really well together,
yeah,
personally.
Dolly Parton. Well, my wife's an archaeologist, so it's like Indiana Jones.
Oh, you call him Dr. Jones.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. I'm actually really stoked. I was telling you earlier to be going to my first Rome event ever in Sedona in a few weeks. Sedona's like my happy place.
Yeah.
We're trying to buy a house in Sedona, so hopefully
Good
that'll
luck.
come to fruition soon, right? With those market prices the way it is right now.
Yeah.
Um, but I wanted to ask you, so there are quite a few people that don't really know all the amazing events that you and your crew put on. So could you give us just a brief explanation of what Rome Fest is? Basically the Nashville, Sedona, and Fruita, because I know you have other events,
Yeah.
but the main one that you put on every year.
Yeah, well, I think it's very timely to ask specifically about the festivals because next year we are going all in, and the only events that we are really putting on next year are the festivals. So
Wow.
traditionally in the past, we've kind of dabbled in a few different areas of women's mountain bike events.
Mm-hmm.
And so we originally started out with Rome retreats, which were all inclusive mountain bike vacations, predominantly for women. We did a few co ed events. They were actually incredibly awesome, and I, like, I had a great
Nice.
time. We had a pretty big pivot post pandemic where we were doing the festivals, which had no overnighting, and we pivoted our rallies to the Rome rally, or excuse me, the retreats to the Rome rally demo tour. Again, to just not to get away from those overnight events, during the
Yeah.
pandemic and having that pivot.
Yeah.
Um, and what we've kind of landed on in our sweet spot is Rome Fest, which was one of our flagship events. Sedona is our flagship location. We've been in Sedona since 2017.
Yeah.
Um, and the festival essentially is a 3 day women's mountain bike festival.
Mhm.
Um, and where we kind of deviate from the traditional festival experience, actually in a bunch of different ways. So we have programming from basically like the moment you wake up until the
Mm-hmm.
moment you go to sleep. So we started programming at 8 o'clock. Typically, people come in, they get demo bikes. We sell demo passes based on the number of bikes in each size that we have. So, like, if you're an extra
Oh,
small, we make sure
yeah.
that we only sell this many. Like, if we only have 10 extra smalls, we'll probably sell like 8 extra small demo passes. So, if you're like looking to demo a
Smart.
specific size, that's something that we do that's really unique. And we work with
Yeah.
our partners, which is very non traditional. I come from a demo background. That's how I kind of got involved in the mountain bike industry.
Yeah.
Um, a really non-traditional way to do bike demo. And for people who don't know demo, it's like test rides if you want to go do
Yeah.
test rides. So we have this really high touch test ride experience with the demo partners that we bring to the festival and how we sell those passes. And then basically in the afternoon, we roll into workshops. So if you want to learn something new, whether it's like, what is a bottom bracket and how do I service it,
Yeah.
to how do I do a trail side, fix a flat, we kind of have
Yeah.
like that and everything in between. Like anything you could imagine that's like mountain bike and mountain bike adjacent, we have a workshop
Yeah.
for it.
I
And then
am
we move
so
into
excited.
our right. And then I know, like, I haven't even gotten to the exciting part yet. So the exciting part is in the evening, we move into what we call our all festival programming. So something that's really important to us is to have like a very intimate experience with each other. And I think one of the most intimate ways that you can get to know somebody is to break bread with them. So we have an
Yeah.
all festival dinner. We cater dinner. It's part of your pass. We serve it very, very early because people are very hangry, honestly, by 4 o'clock. So
Really?
we do
Oh my
we
God.
do it, yeah, we do an all festival catered dinner. And then we move into, of course we have the raffle because who doesn't want to fundraise for a great cause? And we have a bunch of great causes that we fundraise for through our raffle. And then in the evening, depending on the evening, the flavors are our Shred Talks panel. where we bring in a bunch of badass women from different various areas of the industry, whether it's like people who work in the industry, people who are athletes, ambassadors, doing really like amazing community things. And then we shift into the film screening on Friday night, where we showcase a very, very, very highly curated adventure film festival. That what is really cool about that is we've gotten to the point where we can show all women's mountain bike films. When we started the festival in
That's so
2017,
good.
I was
Yeah.
like scraping together a film program that had women in it. Like that was the only, I was like, I would like adventure
Yeah.
films with women in it. And that was actually really challenging to get an hour and a half program together. And what's been
Dang.
really cool is now I like actually have to whittle down the list of mountain bike films featuring women and
So
feminine
good.
identifying folks. Yeah, and then the thing that we're really famous for, honestly, that I would be the most excited about is our dance party.
Oh
So we
my
do a
God.
dance party on Saturday night, right? And
Yes.
this is what I want to talk about. When is the last time that you stood in a space with 300 other women and had zero male gaze? Zero.
Never.
Like you just
Never.
get to dance your ass off with your old
Yeah.
friends, with your new friends, with somebody
Yeah.
dressed as a monkey and someone else dressed as a hot dog. And you
Or
just get to
dinosaur.
dance. And it's, yeah. So anyway, I'm waxing poetic here about Rome, but at the end of the day, like it's really just about having fun and making sure that folks feel comfortable and they feel invited and they feel like they're part of their own family. And that's what really sets Rome Fest apart from other festival experiences.
Yeah, I love that everything from beginning to end, when you're when you're putting this on, you have the women's experience in mind. From everything from the bike sizing, I had no clue, because bike sizing, as a lot of us women know, is a huge deal, especially for me who's 5'4", and
Right? Gotta
I'm
find that small.
I'm I'm your typical Latina, I got like, I'm short, I got short limbs, and I don't have
Yeah.
it's like very, very challenging to find any bikes to demo.
Yeah.
So that's so freaking cool that you do that.
It
Um,
really is. And what's really, I have to like give a plug. Our partners, we work with the best partners in the industry and they will do things. They bend over backwards for us because they get it. Like
yeah,
women go to these festivals that aren't really curated for them. And like, sure, you're going to have a good time. I think anytime you're on a bike, you're not going to have a good time.
that's
But they
right.
will do things understanding what our demographic is and the fact that 21% of our demo riders ride an extra small, which if you look at a demographic of Sedona Mountain Bike
Wow.
Festival, which is 5,000 people, I guarantee you their demographic is not 21% extra small. And so what they'll do is they combine demo fleets. We've had folks drive across country to headquarters to restructure their entire demo fleet. So all they're bringing to Rome Fest is like extra small, smalls, and mediums. And not to say we
Wow.
don't have those other sizes, but the fact that our partners are that dedicated to this experience and making sure that the folks coming to the festival have an opportunity to test ride
Y-
some badass, awesome full suspension carbon bikes
Yeah.
really speaks volumes about the kind of folks that we work with at Rome.
Yeah. 100%. And so did you find that, because I know you didn't have the events during COVID. So there was a couple years where we couldn't really do much, right? So did you find, is this the first one? No, it's not the first event since COVID, is it?
No,
Is this
this is event number 5. I think we
okay?
kicked things off in Fruita last year, and since then we've done Sedona, Knoxville, Fruita again, and now we're about ready to do
That's
Sedona
right.
again.
Because I couldn't
Yeah,
go last 3 years because I was in school. So I finally have my life
yeah,
back.
celebrate! Congratulations.
Um, so, but with that, there's a follow-up. I wanted to ask you then, did you find that COVID really impacted the demo sizes of bikes? Like, do you think that made it more challenging for your partners to then provide extra small to small sizes? Because I often hear, COVID, and that's why we don't have these sizing. And so,
Yeah.
how much of that did you find impacted your events?
Yeah, I will say at this point, I think things have kind of found an equal footing. There was definitely a period of time. Obviously, we shut down in 2020. When we came back in 2021, our first couple of events, I wouldn't even say it was size specific as much as it was really challenging to get demo bikes in particular.
Right.
Um, in general. And, I have to say, like, from being kind of on this like insider, like we've kind of got an inside look at the industry just because we have such great relationships with all these manufacturers and all these partners.
Yeah.
And they came to us and they're like, listen, like we can either sell this bike to an end consumer who like actually is going to go ride it, or we can put it in a demo fleet where it drives around the country and like maybe gets ridden 30 or 40 times by random people
Yeah.
who like go to a shop and can't even buy it. And it was
Mm-hmm.
like, at the end of the day, I was like, okay, like I guess that makes sense. Like you got to kind of choose the best of two really challenging scenarios. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a little bit of a squeeze, but I don't think it was a squeeze that anybody else had some magical answer to. And so I think collectively as demo events, you have Outer Bike, you have the Sedona Mountain Bike Festival, the Hurricane Festival, the Benton Mountain Bike Festival. I think we all were experiencing that shortage. And, for us, we just kind of asked our partners like, okay, well, if you can't bring bikes, like what can you bring? And they got really creative. Like they had really
Yeah.
cool workshops. They brought really cool ambassadors. They found really great ways to kind of organize and have an offering, even though it wasn't a physical bike experience, it was something that could be a takeaway.
Yeah.
And I think, honestly, in the long run, it improved the festival overall because it got people thinking outside the box.
Yeah. 100%. And that's, oh, I can't even. I'm so excited for this. You have no idea. So I
I don't
really
want
am.
to overpromise. Oh my goodness gracious!
No, but I've been really I really fell in love with mountain biking about 3 years ago. I've been doing mainly cross country around here, Southern California, because that's what my wife usually rides. And then a few years ago, I was able to ride in Sedona, and it was just game over for me. I was like, this is what I'm meant to do. And unfortunately, I was at
Welcome to the
school.
dark side.
I know, right? And I couldn't find a bike in my size, and I couldn't find anyone that had a small anywhere unless it was a Liv, and they're great bikes. Liv have really, really great bikes.
You don't have to
But I
convince me. I used to
wanted
design them.
Did you really? Oh
Yeah, that's how
my
I got my start. I used to work at Live Cycling. So yes, they
oh
are
my
really
God.
great bikes. I hear you.
So we're gonna circle back to that.
Yes.
But yeah, there was nothing else, and it was extremely frustrating. And so anyway, I'm very excited for Rome. I've seen amazing things. I've spoken with so many friends of mine that go and are just excited. And I'm excited to meet all of you and in person, like meet so
Yeah,
many
we're gonna
women,
hug. That's rule number one at Rome is hugs, not handshakes, which
That's
got
what Jen told me.
extremely awkward during the pandemic, but it was just like
Mm,
technically they're a lot safer than handshakes. So we
that's
stuck
true.
with hugs, and
That's
yeah,
very
it's been
true.
pretty great.
Yeah, Jen Cates. I was talking to her last week. I did an interview with her, and I was texting her before we were on the podcast, and she goes, "They're like bear huggers. They're so good."
Yeah.
She's like, "Take the hug, take the hug."
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah,
So
we've turned some people into huggers. So like I'll claim if you ever get a hug from Rebecca Rush, it'll probably be
yeah,
really good. And it's because I forced her for years to like actually hug me. I was like, you gotta really hug me. Like, come on, let's do this.
none
And
of this
yeah,
like patting on the back thing.
yeah, and I think it honestly, like, even for folks who are not super comfortable with it, like there is something about sharing that intimate physical space that like I'm getting a little woo woo here, but like we're actually not that woo woo. But like for real, there's
Yeah,
definitely something to be said for like right off the bat, we are gonna take this physical barrier away and we're gonna like get into it and we're gonna have a bear hug. And when we step away, like we get like that awkward interaction of us being up in each other's space, like that's over. And like,
yeah.
let's go fucking ride bikes.
Yeah.
So
And
that's kind
that's
of how we
totally
roll.
what it is. And that's great because it breaks that stigma even for women who are intimidated to ride with other women because they
Yes.
usually think, "Oh, you're better than me," or "You're in Sedona. It's a hard terrain to ride in, so you must be a sick rider." Like, I'm not gonna lie, I had that thought when
Which
I
is like
first bought my
everybody's thought,
ticket.
by the way.
And I'm like, and my wife said to me, she goes, "It's Sedona. You've ridden there before. Everyone's on the same plane. You're at altitude. Who cares?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, you're right. You just need to break that
Yeah,
barrier of like, yeah, we're all awesome. Let's go ride."
totally. And what's been really cool is like what we've seen is when there is a delineation of people's skill level or their fitness level or their comfortable, their amount of like how comfortable they are with the trails in Sedona, which you are totally right. It is hard. I'm like, if it
Yeah,
feels hard riding in Sedona, it's because it is.
yeah,
Um, rather than that turning into like a catty, oh, she's better than me, it turns into like, wow, look what she can do. And I bet that
Yeah.
even if it's not like this weekend, like I can do that. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that's like really powerful that happens quite
Yeah,
frequently.
especially with women riders, I found that really happens more with the women riders. The few that I ride with and have ridden with, it's not about, oh, dude, like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna ride with you because you're way better than me and I feel intimidated. It's like, how can I get better, or what can you teach me, or I usually
Totally.
ask for that, but
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm so looking forward to in a couple
Yeah,
weeks.
we've got some
Sedona.
shredders for sure. We've got a little bit of everybody for the most part. Not a beginner friendly event, especially in
No.
Sedona. I will say that. But yeah, if you're looking to improve and just get inspired by some awesome shredders, we've got the pros down to everything in between.
Yeah, that's right. So before, I want to keep going with Rome for a second, but you had mentioned that. So you guys also did the Rome Rally
Yeah.
event, which was a demo tour, and I think you're saying now you're not doing that next year.
We have pivoted. So
Yeah.
we call it married to specialize. And I mean that in
Okay.
like the best way possible. Like we are
Married.
gleefully, blissfully in love, married to specialize. And we, when the pandemic happened, it's actually a pretty cool story. We were working with Specialized with our retreats, really didn't feel comfortable doing that. Obviously, had to shut things down. Specialized came to us and they said, hey, we're going to pay out your contract this year. And we were like, oh gosh, like we will, I guess we'll like add 10 extra events to our calendar next year somehow and like magically pull that out of our hats.
Jeez.
And they were like, no, 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 like no expectations. We just want to make sure that Rome is here. Like when you guys are back, like when you're able to get back, we want to make sure, because they knew that like Andy and I, as like small married business owners where our whole entire job was Rome, that when Rome shut down, like our income just disappeared.
Yeah.
And
That must have
so
been scary.
Specialized, yeah, it was terrifying. Specialized came in, they were like, hey, we want to take care of you guys. We're going to pay out our contract, no expectations. We just want to see you guys thriving when this is all over. And so when we
That's it.
pivoted, right?
I need a specialized bike
For
now.
real, like, and they're like really cool. For real, for real. I know they don't have the best reputation. I'm happy to like full transparency. We hear all the things. And I just had to like our experience has just been absolutely incredible with them. And yeah, even when we came back to them and we said, hey, your remaining contract is for these retreats. We don't really feel super comfortable with overnights. How do you feel about doing a 1-day demo tour where it's like all the elements that you get at the Rome experience, hugs, not handshakes, really nice
Yeah.
food, like a learning environment,
Yeah.
ride first focused, fun first focused, all those things. And they're like, yeah, sure. Like, whatever you guys want to do, like we're here for it. We were like, sweet, let's do
Yeah.
this Rome Rally demo tour. So we did the demo tour for 2 years. We went all over the US doing these 1-day ride events. They were an absolute blast. And essentially what's happened is just like the festivals have the potential to serve such a huge population of riders. And we just
Mhm.
like, we feel so passionate and so excited about them that we're like, hey, Specialized, how do you guys feel about pivoting again with us and coming on as title partner? And taking that
Wow.
same support, that same, like taking our marriage and like, like maybe it'll look a little bit different this year as relationships do. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of the current pivot that we're in, is that we've this year was the last year for the demo tour as is. We still actually have our fleet, which is another really like insanely cool thing that Specialized has done, is
Yeah.
they know that we're just like very generous people. So if you're ever in Grand Junction and we live on Main Street, you can see the big blue bus. We have a fleet of mountain bikes that we would love for you to come test ride. And like that's kind of like our
I'm
thing.
there.
Yeah, like people call us all the time. His friends are like, "Oh, my friend's in town from Alaska. They don't have a bike. Can we come borrow one?" And that's like something we feel very privileged and very grateful to be able to do. And then the bonus of that is like those bikes come to the festival, and we just have like an even beefier fleet of extra
Oh,
smalls and mediums.
I
So
should have gotten a demo pass if I knew, like, because I have decided with Jen Cates's encouragement to try the Sturdy Dirty Enduro next year.
yes, we also are involved with the sturdy. So we don't put on the
Yes.
sturdy dirty. The sturdy bitches do. And they will actually, all the bitches will be at Rome. They're going to be running registration with us. So you'll get hugs and and like high fives from all of those ladies. And the Sturdy Dirty, like, honestly, I would say if you had to pick, like, I'm just going to go ahead and say, like, everybody should do the Sturdy Dirty. Like, well, you should do them both, but my wife is one of 2, maybe 3 people who has done every single Sturdy Dirty. And the level of commitment is that, like, as the co-founder of Rome Fest, she missed Rome Fest Fruita last year because we were dum-dums and we scheduled it the same weekend as Sturdy Dirty. And my wife, who founded Rome Fest, went to the Sturdy Dirty. She went to the Sturdy Dirty instead of coming to our own event because it is just, I mean, truly an inspiration in terms of like a female focused fun first bike party. Yeah. I mean, they know how to do it. They do it right. And we take a tremendous amount of inspiration from those ladies.
Yeah. That's another one that I would love to talk to them about as well, because it was one that I found later in life too. I mean, it doesn't matter when you find mountain biking, right? As long as you're having fun, that's all that matters. And so I have to actually build a bike, like an enduro bike, because I have a Revel Rascal, so it's 130, 150. But I need something that's not going to bottom out.
I think you could run that at the Sturdy Dirty. I mean, it might get spicy, but I mean, I think, I mean, it would definitely be spicy, but it would be fun to climb on over something a little
yeah, that's true. Unless it's like an SB 150 or something. I've heard they climb really well. But I don't know. So it's an excuse to tell the missus that, I need another bike. I wanted to get
N+1. You got to have one more. The number of bikes you currently own +1.
Right. So I was thinking I'm regretting not getting the festival pass for Rome, because then I could have demoed other ones as well. Yeah. I mean, I know I'm looking at Specialized. There's a Revel Rail 29er. There's the Yeti. There's like all these other bikes that I'm like, I need to test them out,
Yeah. Ibis, Juliana, Rocky Mountain.
Yes. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Pivots in their backyard. So they always throw down pretty big in Sedona. They bring everything. I'm like, pause, you physically cannot fit another bike. You got to like rein that in.
Really? Yeah. There's a friend of mine who rides a Pivot Firebird. She's insane. That's a big bike. So I don't know if I would need something that big, but
that would be your P&W bike for sure. And I will say we might be selling some upgrade passes. We have a few vendors who are like seeing if they can squeeze in a few more bikes. So keep your eyes peeled.
All right. I will keep my eyes peeled. I mean, I'm bringing my bike because I'm going to be in Sedona for like a week after Rome anyway. So I got to bring the bike.
Awesome.
That's so exciting. So, okay. Rome Rally is pivoting to just Rome Fest.
Yeah. And we have so many cool things happening at Rome Fest.
You have what? Sorry?
So many cool things happening.
Yes, you do.
Rome Fest.
So then my question is, would you ever consider going to the East Coast?
There a demographic? You're not the first or the 1,000th person to ask us that.
I figured, but I had to ask.
Yeah, and we actually, like, this is so ironic. I actually had a phone call with one of my staff members today, and we were talking about Rome Fest 2024. Where we are adding a new location, and that has been the question, is like, where is this location going to be? And it's been a 3-year project trying to narrow down a few locations. I will say, like, to kind of adjacent answer your question, then I'll answer your question, is like our consideration for where we take the festival is equity. So making sure that we have accessible trails for the folks who need to be on e-bikes or choose to be on e-bikes, and para cycling trails. So adaptive trails that like adaptive mountain bikes can be on. So that's like really narrows down like 99% of the locations. So we're kind of looking at a few different locations on the East Coast. Actually, there's a few areas that are in the process of having pilot programs for e-bikes, and they're actively putting in more accessible trails. So, we're hoping that like by 2024, we can make the assessment now that, and maybe in partnership with this like demand, like, hey, we want to bring this festival. Yeah. We've got to have para adaptive accessible trails, and we've got to have e-bike accessible trails, because not everybody rides an analog bike. Yeah. So that being said, that is part of our decision-making process. And the other thing is partners. So it's really hard to have a festival without a nice, robust expo with lots of partners. And the long and short of it is that the majority of the mountain bike industry is West Coast based. And
Mm.
some of these partners, like Juliana's a great example, they have one demo rig that has to circuit the entire country plus Canada. And so getting our festival aligned with where their rig can be and when,
Yeah.
has its own unique challenges. And that just becomes less challenging when you keep things West Coast, because like the majority of things are
Yeah.
West Coast. So it's not that we don't love East Coast riding. It's not that we don't know that it's needed and that we
Yeah.
need to
Yeah.
send some love, particularly to the Northeast. And
Yeah.
we desperately want to, but there's like a whole slew of different pieces that got to fit into the puzzle before we can say yes to going to a
Yeah.
location.
Yeah. Well, I know that we're new. I'm just trying to build the women's MTB network here, but anything that
Absolutely.
we can do to help, like just let us know. One of the amazing women who's helping me, her name's Becca. She's been so amazing. She's over in Pennsylvania, and we were gonna see like, can she help because she's over there, or like how? I'm sure you have a lot of people that are available to
We
you.
do. No, our network is honestly not quite as strong in the East Coast, just because like I used to live in North Carolina and Brevard, so I've got like this little pool of networks down in North Carolina, Georgia, obviously Arkansas,
Yeah.
Bentonville.
Yeah.
And then as we go back, like further north, it kind of does trickle a little bit.
Okay. Well,
Um,
maybe I could find some folks up there to connect with you, and
yeah,
we'll see what we can
absolutely.
make it work. We'll
Yeah,
see what we can make work.
we're always keen to meet more folks, and even if it's just, I mean, we're all about collaboration. So even if it's
Yeah.
us, like we just saw the Rooted Mountain Bike Festival happen. We were so stoked to
Yeah.
see that event happening. Grit Mountain Bike Festival just happened down in Arkansas. Like it's really, I mean, we are 100% all ships rise. Like we need more women's mountain bike events.
100%.
There is no ego here. So even if somebody on the East Coast like wants to do something like Rome Fest, like absolutely encourage them to reach out to us about like giving them support and how like the hard lessons that we've learned and some things to
Yeah.
set someone up for success.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that'd be cool. Maybe we could talk more about that offline
Okay.
after we
Yeah, yeah,
after
yeah.
the podcast. Um, so talk a little bit about the vendors that you have over at Rome. So obviously Specialized. We've talked about
Yeah.
Specialized. They're
Specialized
there.
our main squeeze. Our main squeeze. Yeah. So we have a couple different partnerships that like levels, if you will, at the festival. So we have a presenting level partner, and these are partners who invest pretty heavily in our programming. So we run a BIPOC scholarship program. We run adaptive programming. We're launching a new Rome Media Corps to elevate women in adventure sports photography and videography. Rome is a way bigger picture than the 300 ladies who are lucky enough to get festival passes.
Yeah.
There's like way more going on in the background, and our partner, a huge part of our ability to be able to do that, to fundraise the $30,000 that we've given away to local trails and nonprofits, is hugely because of the partnership support that we get. So we have Pivot, Live, SRAM, Industry 9, Sierra Nevada. I'm going to like kick myself if I forget. I know I am forgetting somebody in that. I know we have Juliana coming on board as a new presenting level partner and investing in
Wow.
those programs. And those partners really give us the bulk of our funding to be able to do those programs. And then we have our expo partners. So we have upwards of an additional, probably depending on the festival location, 4 to 8 demo brands. So like
Wow.
Rocky Mountain's been with us forever. Pivot
Yeah.
is one of our presenting partners. They've been with us since day one. I mean, wait, like name a brand, and if they're not there now, they probably have been or they're going to be.
Hey, I see Revel Bikes is on your website too.
Yeah. Chris Reichel is a very good friend of ours. He's one of the
Yeah.
co-founders of Revel. Revel's actually just down the road from us in Glenwood,
Really?
or Basalt, or like whatever part of the mountains of the Rocky Mountains they're in. We never travel that far east. We like Grand Junction's great. We're like, I don't know that we need to go that far east. It gets cold and expensive
That's
that way,
awesome.
so we'll just stay here in the Grand
Call it
Valley.
expensive.
But yeah, like Revel is going to be hanging out with us in Sedona. Shredley has been a partner of ours since day one. Actually, they're like between, I would say, Shredley and SRAM in particular, like those two brands in particular, were kind of the first two brands that were like, we're totally in. You want to do a women's mountain bike festival? That's never been done before. And like, this is a totally unproven event. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
we're totally in. Let's do this. So
That's
Shredley's been a
awesome.
huge partner of ours. Clubride's been around forever. We spend a lot of time in Ketchum and Haley, Idaho, where Clubride's based out of. Those guys are great.
Yeah.
I mean, I could go on and on and on. Like Jamie at Hand
Ah.
Up is one of the funniest people that I've ever met, and like also their apparel is totally badass. Yeah, I mean, we have the Kona girls have shown up in a big way. I think they may have been, other than Liv, which obviously they'd have an all female presence.
Yeah.
Kona
Yeah.
showed up with a team of 6 ladies this year. And what was really
What?
shocking about that is when we kind of adjacent partnered with them in 2017 to bring some athletes, they brought their like Kona Supremes. I
Mm-hmm.
think they had one woman working in the company, maybe just one as like a sales rep.
Yeah.
And so for us to be fast forwarding just a few years, and I don't take credit for this, like I think we've put the pressure on, and I know that we've provided a few networking opportunities for folks to get into the industry from our events.
That's so
It's
good.
pretty magical that we have like all female staff from these bike companies that traditionally haven't had any women even working at the company. So
Yeah.
it's been pretty magical to see that trickle effect kind of like come into the festival where we can have a big women identifying presence.
Yeah. I mean, that's just amazing. It's not about taking credit. It's about the visibility, right? It's about you putting
100%.
this on so that people see the visibility. They see the need for
Yeah.
that. Um, one of the things I'm trying to do with this as well is have other
Yeah.
people contribute and be a part of it, because it's not about me or my opinion on what I ride. It's about the various different women out there who ride and what they ride and where they
Yeah.
ride and at
And
what
how they
level
like
they're
to
at.
ride.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which
Exactly.
we are
Not
all
everyone
very
likes to
different.
ride the same.
Yeah. Yeah,
Exactly.
my wife and our festival director Kayla and our neighbor just went out on like an all day slog. My neighbor
Yeah.
came back and I was like, "Hey, you guys were just out there for like 7 hours riding. I'm like an hour and a half to 2 hours tops. I'm good, and it doesn't even have to be hard. It could be like easy. I'm so easy to please. Like, yeah. So to
Well,
each their own.
yeah. I'm learning to like cross country. It's because of my fitness. My fitness was so downhill over the last few years that I was at school. I put on weight, whatever. It happens, right? Life happens.
Get an
So,
e-bike. They're
you
fucking
know,
rad.
I was talking to a few people here on the West Coast that are know YT, the
Yeah,
bike brand, very well. And I'm going down there next week to meet a bunch of them and demo the Decoy,
do it.
their e-bike.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, you're barely 40. You do not need an
No,
e-bike.
okay.
I was like,
I
and so
challenge that. I
everyone else
challenge
was
that.
telling me to try
So
out.
here's what I will challenge you. Get on that e-bike, and I dare you not to have the biggest smile you have ever had on your face riding a bike. Like I could argue all the reasons why e-bikes are rad and why they're important and why we should just stop like the neener nonnering that is happening around e-bikes still, which is like mind-boggling because e-bikes have been around Europe for 20 years. But at the end of the day, regardless to all the reasons I could tell you why e-bikes are great, like literally just try not to have fun on an e-bike. Like I dare you to not have the most fun you have ever had on a bike on an e-bike. Like
Yeah.
they're great. And I will say on a personal note, I had a back injury that I was out of riding, and my wife races professionally. All of her friends are stupidly fast and pro riders.
Yeah.
So when I go on a bike ride with our friends, inherently, like they literally all ride, they get paid to ride. So like try to keep up with that. So when I came off of my back injury, we got e-bikes, and I would ride an e-bike. Everybody else would be on an analog bike, or maybe we would all be on e-bikes and I'd be in full power and they'd be in eco mode. And
Yeah.
it honestly, like, it got me to the level where like riding wasn't demoralizing. Like it was not it was so demoralizing trying to pedal an analog bike, knowing what I was capable of, knowing where my fitness,
Yeah.
I was a D1 athlete for however many years, played very, very
Wow.
high level rugby. I was a runner, sub 6 minute mile. Like I know that I can be very fit, and I just wasn't there after this back injury. And the e-bike was really the game changer of just getting me back into riding. And now I
Yeah.
kind of it just right tool for the job. Some days we ride the analog bikes, some days we ride the e-bikes. Like it just kind of depends how we're feeling.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. And that's what other people have said. Like I was the same. I was an athlete back in the day. I played soccer the majority of my life.
So
And
you know
then
how to run.
yeah. I'm very, very fit, very athletic. And then 10 years ago, back injury, fell rock
Yep.
climbing flat on my back, like 15 feet on my
Yeah.
back.
Oof.
And
That'll do it.
it was, I mean, whatever. It is what it is. I want to be able to be fit, and I'm getting back there.
Yeah.
I'm getting back there, and I want to ride. I just don't want to get an e-bike right now because Sedona's the goal of what I want to ride.
Right.
Like 3 or 4 times a year, I want to be riding in Sedona, so I want to keep my analog bike
Right.
because they don't
N
allow
plus
e-bikes
one.
in Sedona.
N plus one. They technically don't allow e-bikes. So we don't have e-bikes at our festival. Um, and I have lots of things to say about what we see out on the trails and what the reality of e-biking is in Sedona. But I will say officially, my official wink wink official answer,
Yeah,
and not wink wink, but like legitimately at the festival, we don't have e-bikes. We don't do e-bikes on our rides.
yeah,
But
yeah.
unofficially, wink wink, just take a look around at the trails and see what's happening. That's all I have to say on
Yeah,
that.
but if you are a person who needs it, then
Mm-hmm.
they cannot deny, that to anyone. If you have
They
a
shouldn't.
disability, they cannot legally do that. That's where like the lawyer in me comes out. No, you
Mm,
cannot.
that's right.
So
Amen.
okay. So your
We're
event's
gonna
coming up in
step
two
off the
weeks.
pedestal now. Like, let's get off our soapbox. I'm gonna get off the soapbox. Next
No,
topic.
I'm gonna tell you when I demo that e-bike, when I see you in Sedona in a few weeks, and I after the
Please, yeah.
e-bike, I'm gonna
Tell me how
I'm
big your
gonna
smile was.
and they have mullets, and I've never ridden a mullet on an analog bike, let alone an e-bike. So that's
Also
gonna be
very
some
fun.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so how can people volunteer for your events? Can they do that? Can people reach out to you guys? Do you need any
Yeah.
volunteers?
They can. We have a pretty robust volunteer process. So, our priority has and always will be having volunteer spots for locals.
Mm-hmm.
We feel really strongly that like people shouldn't have to pay to ride in their local trails, and that at the end of the day, like the one of the main purposes of our events is to elevate the communities that we host our events in. And
Mm-hmm.
part of that elevating of the community is bringing those community members in to share the joy, the awesomeness, like share
Yeah.
the insider info that they have on their local trails and on their community. So we typically have, depending on the festivals, and our festivals range quite a bit. People are always wondering, like, why does Sedona sell out so fast? It's like, well, there's only 200. We only sell 200 tickets in Sedona.
Oh
That
wow.
will be changing. And different festival locations we sell more tickets to depending on where you go. But it's a quality over quantity number for us.
Yeah.
So in Sedona, I think we have 25 to 30 ride leaders and about 12 volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
Our festival in Fruita that we just had a couple weeks ago, which is our biggest event, I think we had 55 ride leaders
Oh
and
wow.
30 volunteers because it's like Burning Man. There's nothing out there. We have zero amenities. So we just need a lot of hands for schlepping and things
Yeah.
like that. So the way that we typically do our volunteers is we do a recruiting process with locals and locals to the area and give them first dibs to apply as volunteers. Um, and we are also unique in that we require our volunteers to come the entire weekend. We've found that people who only show up for one shift or they're not able to stay and enjoy the entire experience. And the request is typically 3 shifts, whether
Right.
it's 3 rides that you're leading or 3 volunteer shifts, which is kind of how we delineate our volunteers. There's like ride leader volunteers and regular volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and so what we find is that the ladies who only show up for one shift, or they show up for their 2 shifts in the morning and they leave because they got to go get kids to soccer, they kind of miss the whole experience that like we are trying to give them by having them come volunteer so that they can
Right.
have essentially a free entry into the festival.
Mm-hmm.
So they're giving, but they're not getting. And so, logistically, it is a nightmare. Instead of having, let's say 20 volunteers fill up 20 volunteer spaces throughout the weekend with 3 shifts, that's 60 spots. If you could imagine the nightmare that would be scheduling 60 people all taking
Oh
one
yeah.
shift versus 20 people taking a shift. So that's kind of, a lot of people don't understand why we require people to come all weekend. Part of it is genuinely we want them to get the whole authentic Rome experience, even as a volunteer. That's like our number one priority, but also just like on the back of the house, it is like, imagine trying to put a group ride together with 4 of your friends. and then do that 150
Yeah.
times with 4 of your friends that you've never ridden with and you don't know, and they say
Oh,
that they're intermediate, but they're actually a beginner mediate, or they downplay their
yeah.
fitness and really they're like a little Energizer bunny. And so, yeah, for our volunteering, we have a pretty robust application process
Okay.
that some people have seen as intimidating. And I'm like, I can just kind of explain like the back of the house reasoning is like, it's a big, I mean, we have a full-time staff of 6 people that put on 3 events. So you can imagine
Yeah.
how much
Scheduling is a
detail.
nightmare.
Yeah.
Scheduling with anything is a nightmare, let alone something this big.
Yeah, you should. I've been told that I've had my our event spreadsheets shared because like they're so impressive. Which I don't think they're impressive. They're just like insanely complicated.
And organized, it seems like it
And
makes sense to you,
organized.
right?
Yes, you absolutely have. Like when we offer the things to the level that we offer them, you have to be that organized.
Yeah, the level of
Um,
detail too you have to have in these
there
things cannot be
is.
overlooked.
Yeah.
So if people are local in any of those 3 areas that you are having the events, they can contact you through the website, or what's the best way? Like even
Yes. So through, I think the easiest way, I mean, we have an email address that's kind of a catch-all. It's roamfestvolunteer@gmail.com.
okay.
That's the easy. And I will say I don't know when this is going live, but if they email anytime in the next, like before December, they will not get a response because we are like in the thick of getting Sedona put on and wrapped up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also wrapping up just our year end. Typically, we ask for volunteers for generally until July 1st. The Knoxville volunteers, obviously, that event happens at the beginning of May. So that volunteer period, that window is a little bit shorter. And
Mhm.
it's not that you have to be local. We just prioritize locals
That's
over
right.
folks coming in from out of town simply
That's
because
right.
like they're more useful because they have the knowledge, they know the trails. If I have to go send them to go get the, late night snack from some random
Yeah.
pizza place, they know where to find it
It
because they
makes
live
sense.
there.
No, and it's
And
great to give the opportunity back to the local people that of the place that you're
definitely,
there too. So,
definitely. And
yeah.
I will say we do get quite a few folks who apply from out of area to be ride leaders. And I'll just like Sienna, who is our ride coordinator, we also call her Santa because I apparently say her name weird sometimes. But Sienna will thank me for saying like, we get folks who are like, I don't know the trails yet to lead
Mm,
rides on, which, right? Like, let's just think about leading a ride. You should know the trail if you're leading a group
very
ride.
yes.
We get folks who say, like, I'll learn the trails before the festival. And then they show up the day of the festival and they actually have never ridden the trails before. And we've started to send people home because I'm just like,
Yeah.
A, that's really unfair to us. B, that's unfair to the people who applied to volunteer and we told them no because we were full. And
Mhm.
C, like that doesn't set you up for success. That doesn't set up the group ride for success. Like nobody is set up for
No.
success here. So I will
Yeah.
say if you do want to be a ride leader in an area that you don't live or you don't know, and you tell us like you're gonna go learn the trails, we are gonna hold you to it. Because
A very high
if,
standard, it
if you
seems.
show up on Friday and you don't in fact know the trails, we will literally cancel the group ride and send you home. Which
Which is just a
is
bummer for everyone.
it's a bummer for
It's
everyone.
just
So just don't make me. I hate having to be mean.
well, it's understandable. I don't think you're being mean. I think you're doing what's best
It's
for the
like this
people
the
who
quality
paid and are
standard,
there
right?
and wanna yeah,
Yeah.
there's a standard and you
There's
have
a
to meet
standard
it.
we gotta uphold. It's the Romie Homie experience. We
The
don't
Romie
we
Homie.
don't mess around.
I can't wait. I'm so excited. Thank you, Ash, so much for taking your time. I know how busy you are. We've been wanting to do this for
I
a
know it's been
while,
months. My friends
but
remember
I'm
having beer and they're like, you should just reschedule. And I was like, absolutely not. We've been trying to schedule this
oh,
for
you're so
months. So
sweet. You're
no,
so
I'm
sweet.
super thank you for having me. It was so great to talk to you. And thanks for giving us an opportunity to tell people about Rome and what a fun bike party it is.
Yeah, and I hope that we can chat and get together more in
Well, I'm
Sedona in
gonna
a
hug
couple
you.
weeks, and
I'm gonna
then
hug you in a couple of
yes,
weeks.
my wife's not coming. We were too late in getting tickets, so it's me, but she'll be around the rest of the week. So if you ladies are around the
Awesome.
rest of the week, we could probably still grab a beer one way or another, but
Sounds great.
we'll see.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Ash. Have a great rest of your night. And for those of you at Rome, come say hi to Ash and give her a real big hug when you see her in a couple weeks.
Awesome. Thanks.
Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.